Hello everybody, this is Claudia and welcome to a new make a card video. Lately I've been drawn to these kind of frame designs and I really wanted to do a frame of my own because I don't really have a stamp that will go with these kind of things like frames. So I decided to make my own and to do a little bit of watercoloring. And because, you know, my hand is not steady enough to do all this kind of ovals and perfect lines, I decided to use some of my dies and to trace around them. The dies are usually perfect for these kind of things, and like if you have them, why not use them? I don't think there is a person that can with their own hands make something as perfect and as round as this. So if there are, kudos from my part, because wow, that's something. But after I traced scallop circle and scallop oval, sorry, and then a scallop and then a non-scalloped oval on the inside, I started filling in the pattern, and I only go with very basic patterns, and for now it's just circles. I went around and I make kind of a laced oval. I draw circles. I draw some kind of chain that goes around and comes inside those circles, and now I'm going to make the frame. And what makes this frame, and any frame that you can make, unique is that you can draw flowers around it. And why do I like to draw flowers around these kind of frames? First of all, because I'm not making the full flower. I have problems making a full flower because I don't gauge proportions correctly if I make something round. So parts of my flower will be bigger than the other part. But if you do it only halfway, like nestling under the frame, that goes easier, and then I can make everything very good proportionate. So I like to start with this kind of flowers first and move on to more complicated ones. But the way I do my frames is I make a bunch of flowers in two different corners that are opposite. So I don't embellish the entire frame, but just two different flowers. And the paper that I'm drawing on is just watercolor paper. It's 300 grams watercolor paper because I didn't want it to buckle. I'm going to watercolor with it, and yeah, it needs to stay flat. I needed it to be like a one layer card. So the pen I'm using is a micron pen, and I think I used the 03 size, and I think that is the perfect thickness for what I have in mind. I have all kind of sizes, like even 08, which is huge, but you don't need to use this one. And for most of the part I'm just free drawing here, including the trees. Now let's talk about the scene. I had this scene in my mind for a very long time, and it goes like this. There's this druid girl, because I've been reading a lot of fantasy books lately. So there's this druid girl who walks through a forest in the moonlight to pick mushrooms. I don't know why mushrooms and why is it in the moonlight, but you know, it's something that stuck in my mind and I really wanted to draw it. I don't really have stamps of trees and stuff like that, so I just thought I would draw them myself. Technically they're not really that difficult to draw. They're just lines and then some little branches on there and there. I don't make complicated trees. I could make complicated, but that takes too long. On the upper part of the frame I make some clouds, which are just swirlies, just parts of a question mark sign. And now I wanted the girl. Of course I have some stamps of girls, but none of them are druids, so I had to come up with my own. And I did not dare to draw directly with the pen. I took a pencil to draw my girl. My drawing skills in human like persons are not that great. I just started actually drawing humans, and it will take some time to learn. I mean, I'm great at flowers and other things like non-moving objects, but if I need to draw a person that has, you know, needs to look happy happy and everything, that doesn't really work for me. Oh, I keep touching this microphone and I shouldn't. Sorry if you hear very strange noises. Now, after I did my pencil work, I can go on with the micron pen and I can do it. As you can see here, the face looks a bit weird, but you know, once you color it in, it won't matter. I don't go overboard with the hair or anything because I'm not really that good at it. And I think so far this looks just pretty enough, you know. This is actually my second card that I did with it, because the first card I tried, which is kind of the same design. I did not film it. It was very late in the evening, and I wasn't sure where I'm going to go, so I didn't have any plan. Now that I know, it's easier to film it, because otherwise it would have taken me 2 hours just to do this. I'm drawing the mushrooms there, and that was kind of it from the drawing part. Now, to color this, I chose the distress markers. And why? Because I keep getting back and back to the distress markers because the colors are just awesome. I have multiple colors of watercolor, from the Gonzai to the Koi and just normal watercolors, but I can't seem to get the same range of colors as the distress markers, especially in the grays and the blues. Normal watercolors are really lacking, and especially when I'm working with these small spaces, because this is a normal size card, so you don't have a lot of space, and everything you color, usually when somebody makes a watercolor, they work on A4 and up, A3 size paper, like very big papers, so that you let the water flow and you let everything flow. This is very tiny, and if you would use real watercolors, it would be very hard to watercolor because there's some tiny spaces, and then everything would bleed into each other. So I really love distress markers for this. I mean, I cannot praise them enough. Of course, there are other brands I see now, the Zig ones and so on. I haven't tried them and don't think I will, but I'm quite happy with these colors. So I colored in the frame a bit, and then I went with the same color of blue, I think it was Stormy Sky if I'm not mistaken, just to accentuate some parts, to make kind of like shadows in two opposite corners. And now I'm painting in the sky. I initially wanted to make it a really nice sky, really dark, but then I thought, well, actually, if you can see the moon, that means it's enough. You know, usually when you go picking mushrooms, you don't go when it's pitch black, you go when it's moon shining and it's actually quite light. So that's why I didn't use a very dark color. And once I finished with that part, I wasn't sure how I'm going to draw in the trees, so I decided to do the flowers. So the way I'm doing it is I'm using peacock feathers and everbow green for some of the flowers, and I let it dry in between. I don't come with the color on the same flower once I went with the water brush, because the paper will peel. No matter what you do, the paper will peel, so you have to let it dry a little bit. You don't have to, I mean, as you can see here, maybe it's just half a minute in between. I do one flower, then I go to the other flower, I finish that one, then I come back, I add more. So you don't have to wait a lot, but still I would advise you that you wait whenever you're trying to add more color to make the shadows, because otherwise your paper will peel. So I think I used every color range from the distress markers, from yellows to pinks and so on. I'm not even going to list it. If you are going to do this, I mean, not necessarily this exact card, but you can try with frames. So frames like this can be very easily made, because you have all the stuff that you can do to trace. Like you have circles, you have scallop circles dies, so you can trace your own things, and then just try to make some flowers all around it, and then you can even stamp inside your frame, right? Stamp whatever stamps you have. You don't have to draw like me by hand. I actually started to like to draw a lot and to express what I have in my head. I kind of think in my head in scenes. It's very hard to construct these scenes with the stamps that I have. So I decided that I will pick up drawing and kind of do drawing every day, because I really want to express what I have in my head. Now for the leaves I'm using, I think, also 2 colors of green shabby shutters and I think peeled paint, and I like to do one and off of this one. It gives a bit more interest on the leaves. So now I finally got the courage to actually color in the inside of the card. So I start with her cape, which is a bit very dark green, like I think I use forest moss and pine needles, because she's a druid, right? Druids usually dress in green, at least that's in my mind. So they have to have a nature cape, kind of like that, and her dress is purple. So the way I color, I put a little bit of color on the parts where I think the darkest parts of this color should be, and then I just pull the color up with my water brush, and this kind of gives it the gradient that it needs, so that it's not one block of color, because that will look a bit weird. Now I decided this girl to make her hair easy and blonde. I think blonde hair is the easiest one to do, and I don't use any fancy techniques like flicking and other stuff, because that's too complicated. Yeah, sometimes you have to think, you have to make a decision between the time you spent making a card and whether it's worth it or not to do all kind of those techniques. For me, it's not worth it. For me, more is making the scene and explaining what I wanted to say, you know, rather than doing all kind of fancy techniques and then making it perfect. That is not my goal. So the way I'm doing the trees is I started very light with I think tea dye, and then you go with gathered twigs, and then again with tea dye, just like you do with copy markers, just now I do with distress markers. And then you build up the color, and then you have some light areas and some dark areas, and this is kind of it. And I'm going to approach the ending. I don't think I actually filmed the way the grass underneath her feet looks like, but you know, this is a close-up. You can go on my blog and see even more, and I really hope you enjoyed this